Welcome in, builders. This week we're taking a look at Ashdod, Reign of the Anakim. As always, giant nations are fun in dominions, and Ashdod is no exception. Let's see what they're all about. Ashdod is a dry wasteland inhabited by the Rephaim, giants descended from the Nephilim of primordial times. Rephaim have degenerated and lost the prodigal powers of their predecessors, but they are still mighty in comparison to other beings. While not as mighty as they once were, there are still a few Rephaim with pure blood. In the twin cities of Ashdod and Ashkelon live the Anakim, mightiest of the Rephaim, and the Anakite priest kings. With the disappearance of the Nephilim and the pure-blooded Rephaim, the Nephilim cult has been replaced by ancestor worship. Malachim, Rephite kings of old, are worshipped at sacred banquets for the dead. The Kohanim of earlier times have been replaced by the Zanzumim, priest mages and shepherds of the dead, who fulfill their purpose in life by being devoured at funerary banquets. As previously mentioned, this is a race of giants. We have just a couple human slaves, but otherwise we are pure giants. Our military is Rephite giant infantry and human slaves, and we prefer a heat scale of +2. Our mages are capable in fire, earth, astral, and death, and we're pretty good at all four of those, which is a pretty good spread, although pretty specific also. We would sure like it if we had a little bit of nature in here. Our priests are weak. We have one medium priest, and we have sacred Anakite giants. For scales and blesses, we have a heat limit of +1 and a death limit of +1. I do not think that you want to be going death scales here, although that would help if you are trying to do some kind of hell bless. For buildings, we build giant forts. Giant forts are similar to normal ones, except for they're a little bit better, but a bit more expensive. For giants, it is 1,800 and 800 to do a full upgrade, compared to the 1,600, 600 of standard construction. We do go all the way up to a giant castle. For sites, we have the Twin Cities. This gives us all of our cap units in addition to a Death Gem. And we have Mount Seir. This is a 2 Earth Gem, 1 Fire Gem, 1 Astral Gem site. Units and Sacreds. We have a small selection of troops here, some definitely more usable than others. Starting us off here are 2 different human slave groups. We have human slingers. These are pretty garbage. Dirt cheap. They are slave units, so they are even cheaper than that. These are 2 gold a year in upkeep. However, they are morale 7. We do not have any slave driver commanders. They are using just basic slings. I do not see a ton of use for these. The human slave, which is human slave with spear and a leather cuirass. Again, I'm not seeing too much use for them. Morale 7 is just so ridiculously bad. We do not have superstar leaders, nor do we have a slave driver. So not seeing a ton of use for these. I will say that size 3 would fit into a square with one of our size 7 giants. That can be useful. But no, these guys are just going to die, and they're going to run super duper fast too. I think you'd be better off with just some skelly spam and putting some long dead into that square. Next up, we have the first of our giant troops. We have the Edomite. This is an Avite troop, I believe. Yeah, descended from the Avim. This is a size 4 giant. 20 gold, 15 resources, 15 recruitment points. Our morale is only 9. We are kind of the equivalent of other races' militia here. That being said, we have stats commiserate with that. We do have Wasteland Survival, but only 9 attack and 8 precision on the throw of a javelin. We are decently well armored. We have a ringmail hauberk, an iron cap, and a shield. We can fit one of these in the same square as a size 6 giant, which we do have. This is a little more usable, I would say. A okay leader will give us a +1. Maybe we can get a +2 or 3. These are all right, but don't count on these to be a good front line because they will run away. Next up, we have an Amorite. This is an interesting one. We are now up to our size 6 giants. This is a 40 gold, 27 resource, 17 recruitment points. We get fire resistance, wasteland survival, and gluttony. For anyone who doesn't know, your size determines your supply usage. So by clicking on my size here, we use 3.5 supplies. Part of that is because of the gluttony. So just note that you're going to actually need a lot of food for your armies, because every giant from now till the end of our roster, I believe, does have gluttony. And some of them are more than gluttony too. So they are hungry boys. We are equipped with a ringmail halberd, a bronze cap, and a shield. Kind of mediocre protection for middle age, but not miserable either. We are very strong. We have okay trained skills in attack and defense. And we're wielding a length 4 poison tip spear with 11 attack, 21 piercing damage, and it does have that poison. It is a strong poison. So if you do actual HP damage, you have a 15 poison magic damage hit. That's all right. I don't tend to find these that useful. Against most human-sized troops, if you do hit them, you probably kill them with 21 damage. But that being said, if you are struggling to get kills, but you are doing damage, the extra poison might tip you over the edge there. In addition, let's say you were fighting like an expander god or something, having that nice strong poison will definitely send them on their way a bit quicker. Overall, kind of a specialty troop, not what I would generally get as my main line. Do note here that we have more resources than recruitment points needed. Next up, we have the Gileadite. This is probably your main line troop. This is a size 6 giant, so you do want to try to find something to stick in the square with him. 40 gold, 29 resources, 17 recruitment points, so basically the same cost as the previous one. We have the same traits. We have the fire resistance, we have the wasteland survival, we have gluttony 2. We're using a normal spear, and we've upgraded our armor to a scale mail halberd, bronze cap, and a shield. These guys are all right. 14 protection, it's 13 on the body and 15 on the head, and we do have the shield to back that up. We are using a length 4 weapon, so you can get some decent repels. We would really like to up our attack via buffing or experience. That'll make our repelling a lot more effective. 35 HP is pretty good. Most things are not going to be able to one-hit you. They'll take at least 2 and hopefully a couple more attacks. We have a lot of strength, so our siege strength is actually 3.2, so we're okay at sieging. Pretty good overall, if a little pricey and hard to produce. Next up, we have the Gileadite Archer. These are a very interesting unit. 40 gold, 47 resources, so very pricey there. 17 recruitment points. We have the high HP and the high strength. Remember, our bows benefit from strength, and that is really nice. Half of our strength is added, so plus 9 to the damage. And a great bow is a decent weapon, even in the middle age. Range 50 is nice. We're not particularly good or bad at using it, and it does 20 piercing damage. What is interesting about these guys is they will hold still for you to be able to buff them. We have a lot of really good buffing mages, so you can have them hold still and fire their great bow, and if things do get to you, you have a short sword. But note, our short sword is actually length 2, so this is the same as like a broadsword for humans, and we're okay at using it. Decent damage, it's slashing and piercing. And for armor, we have a full scale archer armor and a bronze cap. So on our body, we actually have 17 protection and 15 on our head. That is not too bad. And the fact that you'll hold still, so we can give ourselves fire arrows, poison arrows, giant strength, temper armor, some kind of protection buff, some kind of attack buffs, morale buffs. It's very, very nice to be able to hold still. Body ethereal, another one we can do pretty well. So groups of these actually are pretty darn nice for standing and fighting. Definitely viable, but be careful. No shield and not the best melee attacks. So you have to be careful what you're sending them up against. Against a fully like combat able melee troop, these guys are going to struggle a bit, especially if you don't have the buffs out and ready for them. But once you do, I think this is pretty interesting and can make for some interesting formations also. Next up, we have the Banished Knight. I don't like these guys very much. 50 gold, 33 resources, 21 recruitment points. They have our standard traits. They have the scale mail halberd, so our protection is 13 on the body. They're just okay. I wish their broadsword was length 3. I'm not sure why their broadsword didn't go up in size, even though our spears and short swords did. If this was a length 3 broadsword, they'd be a lot more interesting. As it stands, they do have better attack than a lot of our other troops. We've generally been looking at 10s or 11s. We're up to 12 here, and we are very strong. So we have 26 slashing damage. But generally speaking, I think I prefer to have the long spear for repelling as a line troop, but this is possibly an option. Next up, we have two different sacreds. We have the Shishe Anakites. This is a cap-only sacred. 130 gold, 50 resources, 47 recruitment points. Now that sounds really bad, but we also have the new double cost for sacred points. So it costs us 2 holy points to recruit one of them. So at tops, you're going to get 5 of these out. Most of the time, you're probably going to be underneath that. That being said, what do you get? You get a lot of stats. 50 HP, 21 strength, 12 attack skill, 15 defense, 15 protection, 14 magic resist, and good morale. Trait-wise, we have even better fire resist than normal. We do have this trait called Fear the Flood. I did test this in early age. If it's raining, you actually get, I want to say it was about a -4 morale and like kind of a little fear effect. So that would take your morale from 14, which is pretty good, to 10, which is a little spooky. So do note that is actually pretty relevant. However, these ones are berserkers, and they're berserk +2. So when we go berserk, our attack, strength, and protection goes up, and our morale becomes 50, so we can pretty much ignore that. Berserk is very, very good on these troops, and make this, in my opinion, the superior of our 2 options for sacreds. We have Wasteland Survival and Gluttony 5. So if we look at our food here, we use 5.5 supplies. I believe a normal human is 1 supply. Let me double check that. What do we feed you guys? Yeah, 1 supply for a human. So that's 5.5 humans for one of these guys. Equipment-wise, we have the scale mail halberd, the bronze cap, and the shield. And we have an Anakite sword, which is notable for being magic. So 29 slashing magical damage is pretty nice. And we have a second attack of gore. That is very, very helpful. Giants really struggle with attack density. So with 2 attacks here, and let's say a human or a long dead sharing his space, that'll give us 3 attacks per square. That's at least up to normal standards. That's pretty significant, actually. Our final sacred is the Ahi-Man Anakite. This is, in my opinion, just a worse version of the other one. We're a little bit stronger. We're a little bit better at attack. We do have better protection, so we are up to 19. But I feel like the Berserk is just worth so much. But if you just would prefer to have more protection, this guy will offer it to you. Pretty decent. Heroes, Commanders, and Prophet. For heroes, Ashdod has 3 separate ones. We have the first son, the second son, and the third son of Anakim. This is a Fire 4, Priest level 2 Berserker. He's an old man. This is a Earth 4, Holy 2, Old Man. This is a Fire 1, Earth 1, Astral 4, Holy level 2, Old Man, who is also a Forger and has Fortune Telling. They're all right. They're all old, so their stats are kind of They're okay. If you get them, great. If you don't, that's okay. This is our best Fire. This is our best Earth. And this is our best Astral. And the Astral Fire is an important cross path for some of our national spells. So they're usable. They're acceptable. Not too much to say about that. Commander-wise, we have a pretty decent little lineup here. Unfortunately, our Edomite Scout is just a more expensive Scout. He has Stealth 50, Wasteland Survival, Mountain Survival, Forest Survival. I'd rather just pay for a human Scout because as a Scout, they're no better or worse than a normal human. So if you can't find indies, though, this at least gives you something. Next up, we have the Ref 8 Commander. This is our main battle commander. He has a broadsword, he has a crested helmet, a scale mail halberd, and a shield. Gives us 13 on the body, 14 on the head. That's acceptable. 140 gold, 35 resources, 1 recruitment point. So you can get 2 of these a turn if you so desire. Size 6. Because we have lots of giant troops, we don't have to worry about getting sniped out or anything. Overall, pretty good. 100 leadership will give you a +1 for your squads, but no slave master or anything here is of note. Next up, we have the Kohen. This is our priest level 1. Do note you have a 10% chance to get a death. If you do get that death, it is really nice. It allows you to bless a couple sacreds, and then when you're done blessing, they can skelly spam. That's actually pretty nice. I had one in the test game here I really, really liked. I wish they were just death 1 in general. Beyond that, we have our standard traits. Only a gluttony 1 here. We are a size 6. We are wearing just robes. Definitely not a fighter. If you get these guys, it's to lead a few sacreds out for small expansion parties, or possibly to try to get some better blessing out. We're not very good at getting our blessing out. Next up, we have the Emite. The Emite is a mage, not sacred. 175 gold, 3 resources, 2 recruitment points. Comes in at death 1, and we have a 100% chance to get a fire, an earth, an astral, or a death. Most of those are kind of meh. The fire death is an interesting cross path. Death 2 would be kind of nice. Overall, I don't think you want very many of these. 9 research for 140 gold a year is not very efficient, but we don't have efficient researchers in general. We have our standard giant traits, and we also have Fortune Teller 10. Generally speaking, I get one of these per fort, just to have that chance of Fortune Teller, but not the best. I think their main use is to do Dark Knowledge ritual, which only requires a death 1. Our other death mage is much, much more expensive, so if you're going to just be doing that ritual, this guy's the guy to do it efficiently. They can also have 50 undead leadership. That can be nice if you're doing something and you need to lead undead around. Otherwise, not particularly notable. Next is the Raphate Sage. Very good mage. This is going to be our main researcher and our main combat mage. I love nations where that's the case. Do note here we have 13 research ability, and that's because we have Adept Researcher. And so our 13 for 172. Not very efficient, unfortunately, but best that we really do have. Magic-wise, we get a linked path. So we get 2 fire, or we get 2 earth, or we get 2 astral. Excellent pathing. All 3 of these are relatively easy to boost, although Power of the Spheres does take an astral pearl. So Phoenix Power, Earth Power, Power of the Spheres. All of those are great. That means essentially, if you want, they are 3 in their path. We can do lots of fire buffs. You can do a little bit of offense with that. Lots of earth buffs, a little bit of offense with that. Some astral buffs, a little bit of offense with that. All usable, all great. My only annoyance here, in the test game behind us, it took me over a year to get my first astral guy out. So it took me forever to get site searching. But it is what it is on that, I suppose. Beyond that, not too much to say about these guys. As mentioned, you're probably going to mainly recruit them as your researchers and then repurpose them into combat power. So on nations like that, you do need to kind of plan ahead on your research and be very specific. Don't just pick things willy-nilly. Get the things that you need, because you may at any moment have to have most of your mages go out and fight, and your research will just plummet down to nothing. Next up, we have an Adon. This is our cap-only sacred leader. He is our priest level 2. A bit unfortunate here. He's our best priest, but he also comes in with linked paths, 2 fire or earth or astral, similar to the previous mage. However, we are cap only, slow to recruit, 425 gold, 85 resources. Very expensive. Now, you do get what you pay for here. All 3 of these paths are fine. You could do Fire Shield and Battle Fury. You could do personal buffs and armor buffs. You could do Body Ethereal. You could do Astral Shield. All those are great. These are kind of thuggy paths, and this is an okay thug chassis. Do note, we don't have any way of getting regen easily if you don't take it on your bless. They're very bad researchers. They do cost you 2 sacred points to be able to recruit. Fire resistance, they do fear the flood. We have wasteland survival. We're a big glutton. We're up to gluttony 8, and we're really bad at researching. We also have good leadership at 150. That does give you a +2 for multiple squads. This is technically your best leader. It is nice to have a leader who can also bless your troops, and he is our best blesser. So there's something. Gear-wise, he actually comes in with the good stuff too. We have our Anakite sword and gore. We have a crown, an Anakite armor, and an Anakite shield. So good protection just on base stats. Do note the crown is only 5 protection, so our head is a little vulnerable, but melee weapons are going to struggle to reach up to size 7. Even a human with a spear can't reach that. They'd have to be bigger or have a longer weapon. If you do replace the crown with a normal helmet, I do believe you lose your gore attack, unless it's some kind of crown/laurel. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Next, we have another cap-only mage. This is the Zamzamite. Pretty good mage here, actually. 440 gold, 3 resources, 4 recruitment, so slow to recruit, cap only. He comes in at Earth 1, Death 2, Priest level 1, and he gets 2 rolls. The first roll is either Earth or Death, and the second roll is either Fire, Earth, Astral, or Death. So in theory, you could get +2 Earth or +2 Death. So you could have a Earth 3 or a Death 4. Both of those would be pretty nice. How many of these are you going to be able to get, though? They're cap-only, slow to recruit. I don't know. They are our best skelly spammers, and we do kind of like to have that to trickle into our giant line. They also have some decent cross-pathing between the Astral and the Earth, and the Astral and Death, the Fire and the Earth. So lots of things you can do there. They do have Spirit Sight, if that could be helpful. I don't think this guy's going to go out thugging invisible things or anything, though. 15 research isn't miserable, but you're paying 176 for it on a slow to recruit chassis. That's not the best. Because they have Earth, they can self-buff some protection. That is very helpful. Our mages are pretty vulnerable. While they have decent HP, they generally only are wearing robes or nothing. So something to keep in mind there. Finally, we have the Talmay Elder. This is another slow to recruit cap only, 520 gold. He comes in with 3 linked paths of Earth or Fire or Astral, and a 10% chance of Fire, Earth, Astral, or Death. So generally speaking, I don't count the 10%, but you might get lucky. So you can get an Astral 3. That would be nice for just casting anti-magic on turn 1, and anything that the Earth or Fire can do, he can just do a little bit better. He has 19 research, but again, 208 upkeep per year on a slow to recruit. That's not great. He has Fire Resist, Fear of the Flood, Wasteland Survival, Gluttony. He does have Adept Researcher +8, which makes him not miserable at it, but again, you're not getting him for his research. And he has a Forge bonus of +1. That's pretty nice. That makes things a little bit cheaper. If they are something of his pathing, that would sure be nice. Earth Boots, Dwarven Hammers, various fire protection items or jars of fire, all things he can craft at a little bit of a discount. I don't think you're going to spam these guys, but I could totally see if you're having a good game, grabbing just a couple of them, help you do some forging. Also, because they have the 3 linked, you could be Fire 4 with just Phoenix power, or Ditto with Summon Earth power. So you could cast some of the bigger battlefield things relatively easily and cheaply with these guys. Also, you could run into a situation where you have Astral 1 and you could hop into some kind of communion, but we're not a big communion nation. We just don't have enough low-level Astrals to support ourselves on it. But that is nice to have a little bit of an option on that. Who would I make my prophet? This is a little bit of a hard one. These guys are our best leaders, but they're already Holy 2, and they have magic, and they have good gear. They kind of don't want to be sitting in the back casting. We could make one of our expensive mages free, but they're very vulnerable. Generally speaking, I think I'm going Rephite Commander. You do start with one of these, and I think he's probably your target for profit. He doesn't have anything else to do. That's pretty good. He can lead troops around, so he can bless them himself. I think that's probably your choice. We do have some summons that might also make for good profits if you do end up losing your starting one. National items and spells. As for national items, we have no national items. As for spells, we have quite a decent amount of summons and a combat spell. Let's take a look at those. From Conjuration, at Conj 3, we have Summon Anakim. These are like the nature imps. At 4, we have Call Melek. This is like a priest summon we can bring in. At 5, we have Summon Lilot. A Lilot is a nature succubi. At 6, we have Call Hashmal and Dirge of the Dead. Do note, Dirge of the Dead is Death 3, Priest level 1. We can do these on the Zamzamites, and I don't think, or Zenzamum, whatever their names are. natively, so you don't have to do this as your god, and you couldn't anyways because you're not Holy One on your god. At 7, we have Call Irel. At 8, we have Call Ophan and Banquet of the Dead. And at 9, we have Call Merkava. We'll take a look at those in a second. Our final 3, actually, in Evocation. At Evo 4, we have Strange Fire. This is a hard one for us to do. We do have Astral 2s, but we don't have that cross path on a lot of things. If we did get one, it is an anti-undead / demon spell that is decent, but it's pretty hard for us to do. Not bad, though, if you have the opportunity to use it. Finally, in Blood, carryover from our early age when we used to be a major blood power. At Blood 3, we have Summon Serim, and at Blood 4, we have Summon Shadim. Neither one of those is going to be doable by us, essentially. If you bootstrap into Blood, though, pretty decent. Both of those are good. Let's take a look at the actual chassis here. Mazik are the nature imps. I don't hate these guys. However, what little bit of nature you end up getting, you probably want to put into supply items. So it's a hard sell for me to summon in what are essentially some imps. But they're not terrible. They're good distractions if you do decide to get them. Next up, we have Summon Malik. These are the Conjuration 4. 2 astral, they cost 9 pearls. I don't love these ones. This is a priest level 1 holy. It does have awe, 15 invulnerability, some resistances. It's a magic being. It's a priest level 1. That's my biggest problem with it. It does have a huge map move, so this is maybe a target for a prophet, I guess. But beyond that, I'm not seeing a ton of use for them. At Conjuration 5, we have Summon Lilot. A Lilot is the nature succubi. Again, are you going to have a nature 4? Maybe on your pretender, but you're probably going to need to be making supply items, so I don't know how many of these you're going to be summoning in. They're pretty decent, though. We could use them to get some more magic diversity if we can find someone to kidnap from. Next, we have Dirge of the Dead. This summons in Daitanu. That is this chassis here. Death 1, Priest 1, random of Fire, Earth, and Astral. They have Fear, Pierce resistant, Fire resistant, Cold resistant, Poison resistance. They're undead that are ethereal. They have Spirit Sight and Shattered Soul. Shattered Soul means they're basically insanity. Sometimes they just don't do what you tell them to do, and they give themselves their own orders. They come in with good gear. I think these guys are not too bad. Now, they do cost you a lot. This is 25 death gems for one of these, but that's not a bad thug chassis at all. At all. Yeah, I think that's very usable. Do note, if you took regen for your normal guys, it will not help your undead here. So maybe Enchanted Blood is more in your future. Also at Conjuration 6, we have Summon in Hashmal. Hashmal is this. It's one of those like biblically accurate angels, I suppose. This is going to cost you 21 Astral Pearls, and you need an Astral 3, Fire 1. Outside of your heroes, this is going to be hard to do unless you do it on your pretender. You get a Priest level 2 that has Awe 5, Invulnerability 20, Shock Resist, Fire Resistance. It's a magic being, it's ethereal, it's flying, it has a Fire Shield of 10, it's an Inquisitor, and it has Spirit Sight. Not too bad. I'm not sure this is where you want to drop your Astral Pearls, though. Next up at Conjuration 7, we have Summon Arel. This is a very, very good chassis. We would love to get these in here. Brings us our nature that we're so desperate for. Oh, let me back up a little. You need Conjuration 7, and you need Astral 4, Nature 1, and it costs 39 Astral Pearls. So very expensive, and you need to tailor a pretender to do it, essentially. But brings in that nature we're so desperate for. Brings in a Priest level 3 finally, which allows us to claim thrones and bless things easily. She has Awe 6, Invulnerability 15, Shock Resist, Fire Resist, Poison Resist, is a magic being, is flying, gives us 30 supply just for being here because she's a nature mage, has Spirit Sight, and she's Healer 3. Giant nations love Healer to keep our guys alive and kicking. This is really, really, really good. We would definitely like these. Beyond that, good map move, again, for claiming thrones and whatnot, and is a decent leader. And she's fine at 33 HP. Maybe give her a piece of armor to keep her a little bit more safe. It would stack with your invulnerability, so something maybe to do there. Next up is Banquet of the Dead. This summons in the Malik. That's this boyo here, along with some Ditantu, 4 of them to be precise. This is an amazing chassis. This is our break into blood. Now, to get here, though, we're going to have to go all the way to Conjuration 8, and you need a Death 4 guy to do it. Death 4 is not too bad. We can random that, but even if we only get a 3, we can make ourselves a Skull Staff. For 55 gems, this spell is a steal. This guy's an absolute unit. He is ethereal and undead, but he doesn't have spirit form. He has Dominion Spreader, so not only will he act as if he's doing 3 candle checks for you, he self-blesses himself with that. He is Shattered Soul, so he will act insane 15% of the time, but for what you get, that's totally fine. We have Piercing Resistance, we have Fear 10, and we have the nice Death Mage and Blood Paths, along with random of Fire, Earth, and Astral. I think here, like the Fire Shield would be really good on him. The Astral Shield would be good on him. The protection that you could give yourself from Earth would be really good. We have no natural protection, so that would skyrocket that, make it very, very hard to kill. Amazing unit. Great thug, maybe even bordering into super combatant levels at this point. And our entrance into blood. And he has blood death, so we could go all the way up to Vampire Lords with these guys. Very, very strong there. Next up, we have the Ofen, another Priest level 3. This is another Conjuration 8, requires Astral 5, Fire 2, 49 Astral Pearls. Comes in with Awe 6. We have Shock, Fire, and Poison Resistance. We are Ethereal. We are Trampler. We're Flying, and we have Fire Shield 11. Huge patrol bonus. Very interesting here. His weapon is a Flame Strike that he does in melee. 21 protection just normally is pretty interesting. That is not invulnerability either. Do note that he only has miscellaneous slots, so you can't really buff that too much. Maybe with a brace or protection, you get that a little bit higher. Pretty interesting. However, if I'm already going to use Astral Pearls for a Holy 3, I'm probably going to get the Arel, so I'm not sure how much use this guy would see. Finally, we have the Call Merkava. This is Conjuration 9, requires Astral 7, Fire 3, and 222 Astral Pearls. And that summons in these various Shiots. These are kind of like the Grigori were in the past. They're, I would say, definitely lessers. I won't go into too much detail here, but they're Holy 4s. They each have different magic pathing. If you got here, they would be amazing. But how often do you go up to Conjuration 9? I'm not certain on that one. And finally, we have our Serim. This is our Blood 3 summon. They are the pseudo storm demons that you can get. And we have the Seir. These are the goat boys that many nations have if they're good blood nations. Both of these are just as good as they always were. And if you do break into blood, you're probably using one or the other. We don't have native air to summon these guys in, so it's probably Seir that you're going to get. Do note, though, Serim, you get 5. That's not too bad, and you can do it natively with our Blood Mage, so you're probably going that route if you're going to get them. Overall, some really good summons here. I definitely will call out these undead ethereal units as being absolutely amazing, and while they cost a lot of death gems, you know what? Ermor has to be killed by somebody. It might as well be you to get that sweet, sweet death income. And then you're much happier about that junky land you just got when you're summoning those guys in. I think the Arel is another one. I think she's so good that you might want to consider trying to get the Astral 4, Nature 1 on your Pretender to guarantee that you can bring her in. Other than that, though, everything here is usable. It's just a matter of price and availability. Might hold you back a bit. Beyond that, let me find, where's my boy? I don't suppose I have a convenient. Well, I don't. if you get construction, which you'll probably need, you're going to need bags of wine or cauldrons of broth for your larger armies. I was just running around with not even full armies, and I was starving to death. That's pretty painful. Those are expensive units. You really don't want them starving, and starving will lead you to get diseased, which you do not like. Beyond that, we have a lot of magic paths we would like. I don't consider us much of an offensive caster. We're more of a buffing nation. From Conjuration, of course, we have all those really good national spells, but beyond that, we just want the self-path buffs of Earth Power, Power Spheres, Phoenix Power. We also would really like to be able to do Dark Knowledge to get as much death income as we possibly can. Very nice there. Alteration is nice for self-buffing our various mages with whatever they can get. You may find yourself needing to do a little Distill Gold. I am a alchemy enjoyer, as it were. And you also would be very interested in like Earth Meld, which would help out kind of our mediocre attacks, different resistances, personal buffs for your various mages, and Body Ethereal. Body Ethereal makes giant troops very, very hard to deal with, and this is a way that you can do it. Evocation, like I said, I'm not super in love with this. That being said, we do have linked paths of Fire 2. I think Fireball would be totally usable. And if you wanted it, you can self-buff yourself up to do Falling Fires. Although a Fire 3 mage can only do 5 or 6 of these before passing out. So that's a little bit hit or miss, maybe. We do also have linked Fire 2, so we could do Stellar Cascades. Stellar Cascades are not terrible. They're armor-piercing fatigue damage. That's vaguely interesting. Good area of effect on that. Yeah, I don't think we're going too deep down Evocation, however. One more call out here. Astral Protection could be interesting. This is a scry spell. You can use this to check what a throne is. So, like, I've scryed this and found out this is the Throne of Sorcery. This is the Throne of Water. And I just, at the cost of 2 pearls, I think that's probably worthwhile. And if you do get feeble-minded, I did have a guy get hit. I think it was this throne. Yeah. I tried to scry it, and I got caught and killed. So I just ran him into a throne. It was well paid. Well paid for that. In construction, you probably, if the game goes long, are going to need Skull Staves, which are construction 5. That also would get you your choice of Cauldron of Broth or Bag of Wine, both of which are pretty good for us. In addition, I do think that the armor buffing spells are really good on us. You may even want to go to 6 for just Legion of Steel, just to get it done quite easily with a single mage. Definitely could be quite good. +3 protection to all worn armor parts, and we are an army of very armored giants. That's pretty noticeable. That's a pretty noticeable amount of protection. In enchantment, we get giant strength, we get fire arrows, we get flame shield, all really good things that you're probably going to want. The weapon buffs also could be interesting for us. In thaumaturgy, we do get the Battle Fury line of buffs. I find these very good on us. Our spear users would really like a little more attack so they can actually repel. And if you're doing the Great Bow strategy, they only have 10 attack on their short swords. 12 will definitely help them. And we do have kind of middling morale for such an elite army. We definitely would like the extra morale there. Beyond that, in here, this will give you communions. I don't think you're going to use a ton of that. It will give you the fear spells. Those are pretty usable for us. We also get Mind Burn. That can be a really good spell for your Astral 2 guys if you want to use them offensively. Paralyze can be crippling on the right circumstances. Ditto with Terror. Note, we do have some units we can summon in that have Fear. Fear and Terror is a good combination. We can also self-buff ourselves up to do Soul Slays, which can be pretty dang powerful. And of course, in Blood, we're not the best at Blood. We have Death 2, Blood 2 summons that we can do. So Bone Fiends could be interesting. Our Serum could be interesting. Beyond that, not the best stuff. I will say, what else might be useful here? Not a ton of these, if I'm being completely honest. I think we basically just dip our toes in here just to get probably Serum are probably what you're going to go for. And not much else there. Blood Feast could be interesting. It helps you remove afflictions, but you're probably, again, just not going to have that big a blood economy to make super good use of it. Okay, let's bring all that together. We're a nation of relatively elite giants that have a good but very limited sacred. We have good combat mages. You can see in the background here, I did a throne battle. And if we look at my scripting, this was mainly using just archers. And we did flaming arrows, we did giant strength, and I buffed them with body ethereal. And it was pretty effective. This wasn't a hard throne, but I cleared a throne with just this. It was pretty nice. Pretty darn good there. This is a prophet. We didn't have any sacreds here, but I needed somebody to claim the throne. I had, of course, lost my first prophet, because why not? Over here, I've been in a very annoying war with Calum. It was always a war I was going to win, but they kept raiding behind my lines, and I struggled to get out enough forces to deal with that. Also, we can expand with sacreds. In the early game, I was able to get 3 Seshe Anakites out per turn. So I'd do 2 turns of that, and I would lead them with 1 Kohen. So he would lead 6 of these guys. He would do bless, and then advance and cast spells to catch whoever he didn't bless beforehand. If you do get that 10% death, that's an amazing guy. He will be able to spam Long Dead behind them after he's done blessing. Very, very nice. I really wish those were death ones naturally. In my secondary forts, I've mostly been going with the archers. This is kind of to taste, though. I know some people don't like doing that. If you weren't going to do that, I would do a combination of Gileadites and the Edomites. And I would have these guys in front, hold an attack closest. These guys right behind them, hold and fire closest. And then they'll trickle in to fill up the extra space in your Gileadites. It's fine. It's totally usable. Also be on the lookout for some heavy cav. We don't have any cavalry naturally, and just having those as an option for some heavy flanks is pretty darn nice. Do note, on non-cap, we don't have a ton of choices here. We get our main researcher / combat mage, we get the guy who can do fortune teller and some death stuff, but that's about it. We do have our leader and our priest, of course, but our capital is going to be very busy, and as soon as you can afford it, you really probably want to try to be getting an Adon, a Zamzamite, or a Tamalai Elder every single time you can, because this is going to be very, very limited in how many you can get. If you did go Hellbless, you're probably going to want a lot of Adons if you can, because they could go out and be heavy, heavy thugs, or maybe even light super combatants. Could be very, very valuable for you. Beyond that, you definitely want to get more forts out. We need lots of money. I only have 1 in this game, and a second one just came up recently. As I mentioned, I was getting counterattacked constantly by Calum. It was so annoying. I just don't have the map speed to catch up to flyers, and so I would end up having one sacred group would be stomping around back here, and another one over here, and another one over here, and I couldn't get enough forces to actually break through Calum's walls. Finally, they attacked out, and I was finally able to start damaging their fortification. So I lacked the numbers to have the siege strength to break in. That's pretty noticeable. I think Calum gets a citadel. Yeah, they get a citadel. That was my problem. I really struggled to get in there. They didn't survive the fight, but I had mercs here that were helping me siege. It was very, very annoying. All right, let's take a look at some pretender designs. Let's go ahead and hop out. Now, Ashdod has a decent selection of chassis. I think your biggest factor here is how much of a blessed you want to go. I don't think you require an expander god. We have some good choices here. The bulls are fine. The golden lion's great. The snake can do it. The dragons can do it, although sloth is not very good for us. Our problem is, though, taking these awake with enough of a bless to make them viable is not going to be particularly great for our sacreds, which are good enough. I think you do want something for them. We have various human chassis. No, we're not the mean giants of the past where we would only be led by people our size or bigger. So these guys will work. We have various, I guess I would call them like the Mesopotamian, Middle Eastern Titan chassis, and the same on the immobiles. We do have the Son of the Fallen. He's a Blood 3. Do note he is a pop killer, and he's a pretty heavy pop killer. If you decide to go that route, I think you'd be better off with the Blood Fountain, frankly. Up here, we do have the Bronze Colossus. Again, though, I just don't see it. I just don't see using this guy over just our own Sacred Giants for expansion. We have the Golden Idol. This is a pretty good one. I like that he's in Immobile and he has Earth 2 and Blood 1. If you did want to go heavily into Blood, that might be a possibility. If I was going to get him, let's see what we could do. Probably going to go Enchant Blood, and then what are we going to get from Earth? Unbreakable actually would not be terrible since we have Giants. That's also non-awake. That's actually not too bad. I could totally see Unbreakable. We need one more point to pay for that. That's not too bad. We still have some design points left. We're going to need production for sure. Now, remember, our main Giants cost 2 each. So generally speaking, you want an odd number so you could get some Giants and a leader. 7 is really the like sweet point. 6 or 7, I would say, is the sweet point. So we could totally do that. Now, neither of these need us to be awake. So we could go dormant, or we could even go Hellblessed with this chassis. Something like an imprisoned. I really don't mind that. I really don't mind that. Let's see what our scales would look like here. I would sure like a growth in case we do some blood hunting. We're also fire 2, so we might get some heat pop kill. That wouldn't be the best. Maybe a little bit of magic to help out our research. That is not terrible. I do not hate that. If I was going to add something up here. Now, do note, I'm not taking Astral and I'm not taking Nature, so I can't get the summon I really like. If we wanted to change that, we could lower you to 4. We could lower you to 4. It's only minus 36. That would be totally fine. We have 1 bless point left. Probably give myself either low light vision. That would allow our sacreds to expand underground. I think that'd be super valuable. Or we could give ourselves an HP from Resilient or Strong Vitae. Let's go low light vision, just to give us some underground options. I like this actually quite a bit. I think I'm actually going to save this guy. This wasn't one of the examples I was going to show you guys. Auroch, yeah, sure. Come on in, buddy. Let's take a look at the ones I did create here. We have Little Big Man. This guy went for regeneration. Do note he's dormant, and we had to pay a lot for that. So his strengths are he does have the cross pathings that we want. He also has the nature and glamour cross pathing. Do some glamour stuff with some of their summons could be pretty good. And he has 1 water. This is so that we could make a ring of water breathing guaranteed and claim underwater thrones if it comes to that. I do think Fear of the Flood will make your giants really bad underwater, though. I didn't test that, but I would be surprised if it doesn't. So just be forewarned about that. He also has heroism. Giants like heroism, so option there. I also have Gravtite. This is the one I did in that practice game we were looking at. He comes in as dormant, but he is a very high researcher, and he gives inspiring researcher. This actually wasn't as good as I thought because I kept having to pull my researchers out to go fight. This is better on nations that have very cheap, very spammable researchers. He went with Strong Vitae, Enchanted Blood, and Low Light Vision. Enchanted Blood is very much grown on me. Oftentimes, regeneration, while it's amazing, is just so expensive. And if you have high protection, Enchanted Blood can see you through a lot of fights just fine. Do note, again, he has the cross-pathing I need to be able to summon in the Arel. And beyond that, he's basically going to sit at home and do research. He could help bootstrap us early into Blood if I wanted to do that. Probably not, but he could. Other than that, though, he's basically a sit-at-home god. Finally, we have Moloch. This was an interesting one. I do think this would be kind of fun to do. He had to be dormant because I just couldn't afford things. Him himself is not the best at getting out and about. I can't do it here. His chassis, I don't think he has. He's wearing like robes, I think. Oh no, right here. You're gonna need to give him a piece of armor. He has 20 natural protection, but 20 is not enough. So you definitely want to give him a piece of armor. But Fire Shield and Enchanted Blood would be pretty good on our Sacreds. I think that would make them pretty darn hardy at expanding and would definitely help us against spammy type fights. which is where we're going to struggle with our low attack density. So fighting Ermor, Asphodel, just anyone who can pump out lots and lots of units, this is going to be really, really good. He is a combat caster, so he can get in there and do like fire stuff at point blank. He has fear. Pretty interesting, but look at the scales I had to take to do that. Not very good. I did not love that. I think he ended up with a weird amount of points too, which I'm not a huge fan of. This isn't for Ashdod, but I would probably build him. If you wanted to go super cheap expander, this is Dave the Golden Lion. He has Fire 2 and Nature 2. And all he takes is Superior Morale 2. You could trade this out for an attack skill if you were so inclined. And what he needs to do is he researches Personal Fire Shield, or the Fire Shield buff, and Personal Regen. And then he can go expand into most non-heavy cav things. Just fine. So if you have your heart set on an expander god for some reason, this is the guy who can do it very, very cheaply for you. Beyond the ones that we looked at, you could maybe go for death stuff, but you're going to want your death gems going into our special national spells, so I don't know what else you're going to be doing with the death stuff. None of the blessing, I mean, I guess you could take Mending Bones as a regen for those guys, but I think you're better off with just Enchanted Blood, frankly. Wooden Colossus, too expensive. The Monument could be good. Do note Monument can't teleport, but has some Astral, has some of that. I just not in love with a ton of these. You do have a very cheap Divine Glyph if you were so inclined there. Yeah, just not loving a lot of these other options. I think the Titans are very hard to go with. If I was going to go with the Titan, I think the Illa of the Moon is the most interesting because he has the right paths. You can make him dirt cheap. This is just to summon in the Arel. Make him dirt cheap. But what is he going to do for you? He's not the best researcher. He just counters our death scale. So if you're going to take him, I feel like you're committing to that. Can't even afford there. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling it. Okay, so in conclusion, Ashdod is a very fun giant nation. We have a lot of really cool national summons that are very usable, especially those death ones if you can get your death economy rolling. And the Arel is a nice high mobility Holy 3 to use. You can do sacred stuff. You have some giant line troops that are decent. You could do an interesting archer strategy. We have good combat mages. Overall, just a really, really fun nation, I have to say. I'm very interested to hear what other kind of blessings people like. Enchanted Blood is my new flavor of the month. I'm really enjoying Enchanted Blood. Just the value is just so high. And we have Sacreds who they're tardy enough. I did lose some. Like, it wasn't like I have lossless expansion, but for the cost and them being Berserk, just having a little bit of regen just really kept them going quite nicely, I have to say. And it allowed me to get good scales so I could get these other troops who are kind of pricey out onto the field. So share whatever blessings you've come up with for these guys. They're pretty darn fun. It's nice to be able to use our big sacreds without A, causing turmoil, and B, eating everybody. Do note that I didn't call it out specifically, but none of these people are pop killers. They're not eating population. That's quite a big change from early age for them. So a good change, probably. All right, that's going to be it for me, builders. I look forward to this one. I think this is going to be another just absolutely fun stream to be able to do. Share your tips and, like I said, any blessings you've come up with for these guys. Or maybe you're just all in on scales. I do feel like they're good enough for a scale nation. And frankly, even without a blessing, these guys are all right. They're not terrible. So let me know what you found there. If you've enjoyed this one, don't forget to leave a like on it on the way out. Always appreciated for pushing that out to more people so more people can enjoy Dominions with us. If you're not already subscribed, I hope this is the video that earned your subscription. And if you'd like to go even further and support the channel, we have super thanks if you join us live on stream. I stream every nation I make one of these videos for. We have super chats, and we have memberships. If you join the channel as a member, you get pre-game videos like this a week early, and various mixtures of other things that I'm working on as member first bonuses. Very appreciated. Thank you to everyone who supports the channel, whether that is financially or just as a cool viewer who comments on the videos. Look forward to seeing you on Stream Builders, and I will catch you there. Get out there and build yourself a giant castle.